Here.
Alderman Flores is absent. Alderman Galloway.
Here.
Alderman Gardner.
Here.
Alderman Snyder.
Here.
We have 5 aldermen present. We have a quorum.
All right, wonderful. I apologize for missing the last meeting, but I did watch it on our streaming services, and I will be the first to say, please make sure your microphone is lit before you start talking, because if it's not, they cannot hear you in cyberland. There were several people I couldn't hear what they were saying. So just one other point of order, anyone that decides to address the Board of Aldermen on any topics, there are sheets in the back of the room. If you would fill those out with your name and address and give those to the clerk, that is how we're going to keep track of who speaks to the Board of Aldermen. So if you can do that, if you'd like to speak on any of the topics that we discussed this evening as first reading. All right. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes of July 8th, 2022 special meeting, August 1st, 2002 regular meeting? And if so, are there any amendments or motions? There we go.
Thank you. I make a motion to approve the minutes as written for special session July 28th and regular session August 1.
All right, motion was made by Alderman Campbell, seconded by Alderman Gardner to adopt the minutes as written for July 28th and August 1st, 2022. All those in favor? All right, that is unanimous with the members present. All right, there are no ceremonial matters or scheduled visitors or guests this evening, so we'll go right into first reading of bills. And that is Alderman Flores. And he is absent. So if somebody would like to take that in his absence.
Your Honor, I move that we read that we place bill number 3385 on its first reading by title only.
Second. Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Gardner to place bill number 3385 on its first reading by title and description only. All those in favor?
An ordinance amending the corporate boundaries of the city of Ozark, Missouri by annexing certain real property generally known as a parcel approximately 34 acres bordered by State Highway F to the west and north and by Riverdale Road to the east.
All right, perfect. Mr. Smith?
Good evening. The application in front of you this evening is for the annexation of approximately 33.78 acres located more closely at the southwest corner of the intersection of F Highway and Highway 65, just to the west of Walmart Supercenter. The parcel is located within the Tier 2 urban service area. The property is compact contiguous to the city limits. It is intersected by the Highway 65 and the outer road Riverdale corridor. The city does have adequate utility services to serve this property. However, it would require some substantial improvements extended to the site by developer if needed for that development. Based on staff's reports and staff's findings, staff did recommend approval of the annexation, as well did the Planning and Zoning Commission with approval of 7-0. Be happy to answer any questions on the annexation.
All right. Mr. Galloway, are you still lit from your reading? All right. Is there anybody that would like to speak on this topic from the board? Ms. Alder.
Hi. So what would the improvements have to be and who would pay for them?
So the current water and sewer is on the eastern side of 65. So if a development does need those improvements, they'd have to bore and bring that under 65. I will clarify, I'm incorrect on the sewer. It is to the south of the site on the west side down in Elk Valley area. So that extension would have to come from that southern side of the existing church and brought up to this site. But the water is on the east side and the sewer is just to the south of the property.
And who would pay for this?
Generally, the developer does pay for those improvements to extend to the site.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Comments, concerns? All right. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this bill this evening? Wonderful. Go right ahead, sir.
Hi, my name's Derek Lee. I'm with Lee Engineering. My office is at 1200 East Woodhurst in Springfield, and I represent the owner. So the site is at the intersection of an interchange and a primary arterial. And so it's really suitable for more heavy commercial type development. But the utilities aren't present. And so we feel like this is the highest and best use. Mini storage we're proposing mini storage, and it's got a relatively low traffic increase, and there'll be single story structures and limited business hours. And so we feel like this is a good use in this particular location that with all the traffic that goes by. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. And then we've also got other people to speak tonight on behalf of the case.
Mr. Snyder?
Storage, is that correct? How many units?
So let me let another guy come talk to you about the total number of units. And just so you know, we don't have it exactly worked out. This is an annexation and zoning, and so we don't have a final count on it.
Well, if you had to take a guesstimate guess.
We do have a guesstimate.
Okay, and with that being said, the reason I ask, these are all going to be like single, double, triple site storage facilities, is that correct?
There will be a variety.
Okay, will it be fenced and gated?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of fence is going around it? And the reason I ask, this may come along later on, but it's been my experience that anytime we have a storage facility, not just Ozark, but anywhere, trash tends to clutter up and it becomes an eyesore from the outside with windblown debris, vehicles that are inoperable on the inside. I just want to make sure that we're going to address that.
No, I think it's a good point. Garrett, why don't you speak to that? Garrett's one of the owners, and he's
Sure.
he can speak to this.
And not to put you on the spot, I'm just asking.
No, that's a good question.
So Garrett Stancer, address 1009 North 26th Street here in Ozark. And our architect can speak into fence heights and some of those other design concerns. So our office hours are 9 to 5. I've got a full-time maintenance guy who patrols all our facilities and maintains them. And our storage facility that we're looking to model this location off of is Elite Storage in Nixa. And we actually have almost 200 five-star reviews on that site. We've been there for almost 20 years. And so we've established a good quality product, good reputation in the community that, we've got a standard that I think what you're questioning and referring to, our product meets those. So is there any other
I just think,
questions?
on the specifics, is it going to be gravel, asphalt, cement, covered?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So it's all planned to be asphalt, blacktop on there. We don't have any plans to create just open parking. So I think maybe some of the concerns you're referring to are facilities that just have like a open gravel lot. You got cars that have, 3 tires on them on blocks and just not good to look at. And so we're wanting to avoid that at this facility. Our intent is if we do have any open parking, it's to be canopied. And so how our canopies work are boats and RVs can park in there, but they have 3 sides. So they'll have a back wall and a side wall, just no overhead door. And so that's going to be minimal. Everything else is going to be totally enclosed. You'll have your big overhead door. And we're not looking to do super high density. We're not trying to pack in just mini storage. There are spacing requirements with the larger boat and RV storage that really minimizes, the traffic and the amount of units that you can do in there as well. So long story short, our product, totally enclosed, all blacktop. You're not going to have any blocked cars out there or trash piling up because we have the crew and the manpower to maintain our facilities. just this year, we recoded our whole blacktop at Elite, we don't want potholes and, we take a lot of pride in the product that we put out there. So.
Yes, and I respect that. And anytime I ask a question like that, I take the crime prevention aspect into it as well.
Yes, sir.
I don't want burglaries. Obviously, we don't want any type of crime to happen, but I do know that when we have storage facilities, burglaries are number one. And with that, if we can build deterrence into it or recommend that you make that happen, such as lighting and the territoriality aspect of it, are you doing that, or is your architect already putting that in the work?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so lighting's going to be key. And we also have on both of our existing facilities, Elite's almost a 40-acre facility. And this one, we have about 19 usable acres because of the grade challenges that I believe Daniel's going to speak into here in a little bit. But yeah, so with that 19 acres, we're going to have nightly patrols that come through. They work really well with Ozark PD. The owner of that company was an officer for 18 years. And so he takes really good care of us, in surveillance 7 days a week. So they come out 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. And they'll do 3 to 4 patrols through there.
Gotcha. Now you mentioned surveillance. Will you have closed circuit TV or 24/7 surveillance all around?
24/7 surveillance. Both our existing facilities have that. Again, it can happen anywhere, but our preference is to put every safeguard in place, even if it's at a premium, to ensure the safety and security of our clients and the community. So.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Mr. Campbell?
I think I know the answer to this question, but I want to be sure that I do. And this may be a question to our city administrator, but do you collect sales tax on those rentals of that type?
Do we collect sales tax on the existing?
No, well, like whenever you start renting out your storage units, is there sales tax collected on that rental?
No, sir.
Okay. Same answer. Okay, that's all right. I just want to make sure on that.
Yes, sir.
I know whenever you go rent tools, you pay sales tax on it. So I didn't know if it fell under that or not. So, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Galloway?
Mr. Stancer, I want to compliment your professionalism and how you presented this. It was very thorough and, for this Board of Aldermen, when we're dealing with annexation and zoning, it is probably our best time to make inquiries into a development. And not everybody knows that. So anyway, I appreciate your preparation and your answers.
Any other questions for Mr. Stantz? None? All right, perfect.
Thank you.
Anyone else here this evening to speak on this topic?
Hello, my name is Daniel Richards and I'm also with Lee Engineering. Our address is 1200 East Woodhurst Drive in Springfield. And I'm a civil engineer and part of the design team. And I wanted to speak to a couple of design items related to the site design. As Garrett mentioned, there's some steep grades on the site. And then we also had a geotechnical study done that uncovered 4 sinkholes and a spring. And those features are like on the south and west sides of the property. And those limit our developable area to about 60% of the total site. So it's not going to be a super dense development just due to those challenging natural features. And then the steep grades on the west side also provide a good natural buffer that exceeds like the required buffer yards. And then I've driven the site, and on that west side, there's some residential on the other side of the road, but that part of the property that's very steep is also heavily wooded. And so by not developing that part of the site, it will provide a good natural buffer for our commercial use. And then the other point is that the access will be limited to a single access point for security purposes. And then it won't be the existing drive that's off of Highway F. We will have all the traffic come off of Riverdale Road. Yep. Nope, that's Highway F, Riverdale. Yep. And the neighborhood from our last meeting was favorable to that. They had talked about the curves on F Highway, and so we won't be introducing any traffic on that side. And then the last thing, we will be adhering to the city's stormwater requirements for runoff and water quality, and the required setbacks for the sinkhole and spring and whatnot. So that's all I had, and I think the architect would like to speak also, unless you have any specific questions.
Any questions for Mr. Richards?
Well, it'll be an architectural question. I'm
You
sorry.
want to hold?
I'll hold to it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Anyone else?
This is still on, I guess.
Yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Bill Darrington with Darrington Architects. Our office is 1837 East Kirkwood in Springfield. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. I don't have a prepared statement, but if anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Okay. Mr. Campbell?
I said mine was architectural. It could be site also, but we do have a dark sky ordinance. Just wanted to mention that.
Okay,
And that's really,
I'm aware of that.
okay.
We talked about that last time, but I have a little bit of a personal issue with that because I'm an amateur astronomer, so I know about that.
Okay.
And, but let me assure you that the mechanical engineer who I've worked with a lot on projects is very adept at light cutoff and making sure that the light doesn't go on beyond the property lines. And he knows that, you know, there's an awful lot of people that just think you flood the skies and that's good security and all that.
Yeah.
But if it's cut off where it illuminates the parking lot and the buildings just as well, as if it's all, you know, blasting out into the neighbors. So
Okay.
I'm aware of that.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Darrington? You did a great job.
Okay, thank you.
You left them speechless. All right, perfect. Any additional questions, comments, or concerns with regards to this bill from the board? One last call from the audience.
Yes, this is on.
You're on, yes, sir.
Evening, folks. My name is Greg Stancer, 896 West River Bluff Drive here in Ozark. And I appreciate y'all hearing our case here tonight. And thought my son Garrett did a nice job presenting that. I appreciate the compliment. You might know Garrett, he played basketball, you know, here for Ozark High School. And this is our hometown. We care a lot about Ozark. Lived here for 22 years. And raised all my sons here, and we take great pride in what the city has done, and just noticing all the streets and landscaping here. You know, I'm just very, very proud of this city, and we want to keep that going with this facility here. We purchased this property after it being on the market for, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years, and we just never could understand why anyone didn't see the potential in it. And so we began negotiating with the seller, and unfortunately he passed away right in the middle of our negotiations, and that set us back another almost 6 months working with his heirs out of Texas. And we're glad we were able to secure this, and we have big plans for it. And like our elite storage facility and Eastway storage facility at 65 in Division, we plan on having a beautiful landscaped entrance. And I would encourage any of you to go by our other facilities to see what kind of a facility we develop and what our reputation is with that. And a couple of things that maybe weren't discussed that I'd like to point out that's important to me just as a citizen here is I think the low traffic, this being a low traffic generator, I think that was brought up by the engineers. But one thing I've noticed all these years, we've been developing this storage since '98. Our first was Packet Stack here in Ozark. And I think while I presented that, I don't know if you were city planner at that time or what, or it was Deerbrook, you were city planner, and Cameron then came on after that. But one thing I wanted to point out was that our facilities kind of act as a incubator, kind of an incubator, if you will, for small businesses. They use these these units as a place to get started. Some people maybe work out of their home, but they need a storage unit. Some, you know, lease up to maybe 5, 6, 7 units to get started. And then they gravitate out of the storage facility into like the warehouses that we are currently building here in Ozark as well. And we've enjoyed working with the city on these warehouses lately that we've been building here in town. And that's where these tenants, so they start out of their garage or a storage unit, and then they gravitate to some of these larger warehouses. And so there's a huge pent-up demand for the kind of storage that we develop. We do the smaller mini storage units, but like at our large facility in Nixa, we have over 40 different sized units to offer. So we have some of the most unique units, sizes you won't find anywhere else. Elite, believe it or not, is one of the largest storage facilities in the United States. And actually the acreage here that we're dealing with, 19 acres, that's actually, I'd say 2 to 3 times the size of the typical, you know, storage facility. So our motto is, you know, we have a size for every need. And that is really true, whether it's the small business owner, whether it's the bass fisherman. You know, some of our units have electric in it, some of them don't. And we have the, you know, $60,000 RV, and we have folks pulling in there, you know, $500,000 RV. That's why they love the asphalt. And that's why Garrett was speaking to the fact we'll have asphalt, you know, on the facility. But the other thing that I noticed with our other facilities is our customers come, they do their thing, and then they need, you know, fuel. They need, you know, groceries, ice, you know, whatever. They need to hit the Walmart, the Lowe's, and so they do their shopping, you know, while they're here. So we are planning on this facility drawing from as far as probably a 40 to 50 mile radius. And I only say that because that's what Elite, you know, draws from that distance. And so we oftentimes see our tenants spend an hour sweating, unloading, doing their thing at the facility, and then hitting the nearest Walmart, the nearest Wendy's, Freddy's, whatever, to do business. So we know for a fact that our tenants are going to want to shop, you know, at the closest place there. And so that definitely helps the area. The site, you can imagine the site is generating almost, you know, no real estate taxes. They're sitting there, the vacant site all these years. It's, you know, like the facility in Nixa, I mean, you're talking about well over 6-figure in real estate taxes alone, you know, just for the schools, fire, police, road and bridge, library, all that, you know. So I just want to point out some of these things community wise, you know. And I know these gentlemen have talked about, you know, what we're planning to do with the property, but I just, you know, as a citizen, want to point out what I know for a fact it's going to do for the community. So anyway, thank you for your time. And by the way, I don't know, did this flyer go around? This is some pictures.
Yes.
This is some pictures of our Nixa facility. And again, at 65 and Division, I would encourage across the street from Associated Wholesale Grocers, right on the railroad tracks there. I'd love for y'all to drive by and maybe take a look at that next time you're in that neighborhood in terms of our landscaping, signage, access, gates, the type of wrought iron we do with our frontage and so on. We're real big on wrought iron, you know, for that look. So anybody have any questions?
I believe Mr. Gardner does.
Yeah.
Yeah, will you have climate control units?
Yes, we do plan on having some climate control, but that's not necessarily what we specialize in. We do specialize in, you know, that 12 by 30, 12 by 40, 14 by 50. We even have 14 by 60s, but we have a new size unit, 13 by 30s. The bass fishermen love them because they're a little wider and, you know, they have electric in there. And then our RV units, our large RV units, they have the large 60-foot drive aisles, which not everybody has those. I mean, it takes so much land to do that most people don't. When you're buying commercial sites, you know, to do those big RV, you know, just the return is so much lower, but that's what we're planning on doing. Mix of that, so.
Very good. All right. Oh, sorry.
Yes,
Go right ahead.
No, I'm familiar with your unit, Springfield. It's a good unit.
Thank you.
And it's well put together. I do like that.
Thank you.
But my question is, you mentioned a lot of shopping. Do you anticipate trying to seek any type of a propane discharge station or any type of a U-Haul rental service out of there?
We have for years studied the U-Haul aspect, and it requires the Sunday, being open Sundays, staffing on Sundays and that type of thing. And our beliefs are not to be open Sunday. And we go to church on Sundays and we want our staff going to church on Sundays, and we don't want to be open on Sundays. And to be successful in the U-Haul rental business, you have to be open Sundays, man it, staff it, open, you know, 7 days a week. And so it's a lot of work to do that.
Oh, I understand. I didn't know if you had.
We do not plan on doing that. As far as the propane station, just the liability of that and that being a whole other business and everything. We have our hands full just with the day-to-day, you know, property maintenance and that type of thing, the operations that's another little side business that we may get into eventually. Some people have asked us, you know, are you going to have the dump stations and all that? And we just want to specialize in what we do best.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So you bet. Any other questions?
All right. Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public? We'll close the public portion. Any additional comments from the members of the board? Seeing none, this bill will be held over till the next legislative session. You want to take Mr. Flores again, please? Yep.
Your Honor, I move that we place bill number 3386 on its first reading. By title only. Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Gardner to place bill number 3386 on its first reading by title only. All those in favor?
An ordinance amending the zoning code and official map by changing the zoning classification of certain real property generally known as a parcel approximately 34 acres bordered by State Highway F to the west and north and by Riverdale Road to the east.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, this is a second application of the previous application. This is for the zoning of this property. They are requesting to zone this to office warehousing. Based on what you've heard that they're describing to do on this property, the office warehousing zoning does accommodate dedicated warehousing, storage facilities, and trades and services. They are complying with that zoning district they're requesting. The Highway 65 corridor overlay district does apply to this property. So when they get to the point of application and the site plans and the further details, we'll confirm that they conform to those requirements. The future access is controlled off of Riverdale by MoDOT. So MoDOT would be involved with approving any access off of Riverdale, or if they choose to at some point pursue the F highway, same there as well. The OTO trail corridor, there's no trail corridor identified on this property, so there's no impacts to that. The city's mapping system doesn't identify any sinkholes, but however, you've heard from their the representative, they have in their due diligence identified those, and so when they get to the point of permitting, they would have to comply to the city ordinances on the offsets of those sinkholes and developing it around them. There's a riverine, a wetland noted on the property, same there. Once they get to the point of permitting, they would need to get the permitted approved by the appropriate agency. The comprehensive plan did note this property as a future land use as parks, recreation, and open space. And at this time, I'm not aware the city has any plans to pursue a future land use of parks. The requested zoning would be appropriate use based on the surrounding properties, the location, the access off the highways, and the visibility. Based on staff's report and findings, we did recommend approval, along with the Planning Zoning Commission recommend approval of 7-0 for the requested zoning of office warehousing. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Smith? Thank you, sir. Anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this topic this evening? I know most of the,
Just if you have questions.
all right, perfect. I know most of the comments that were addressed in the annexation phase, but if you guys would like to come forward, are there any questions for the applicants from the board? One last time, anybody from the audience would like to come forward on this topic? We'll close the public portion of this bill. One last chance for the members of the board before we hold it over. Hearing none, this bill will be held over until the next legislative session. Mr. Galloway.
Move that we place bill number 3387 on its first reading by title only.
Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, second by Alderman Campbell, to place bill number 3387 on its first reading by title only. All those in favor?
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a contract with Insight Design Architects LLC for architecture services.
All right, Mr. Smith.
Yes, the city currently utilizes third-party review services for our plan review for architectural and engineering services of the building. Currently, our contract with our third-party reviewers is about to expire, so the city has pursued going out for requests for qualifications for new submittals of responses. The city did publish the request for qualifications and received 4 responses. The respondents were Insight Design Architects, George Butler Associates, Paragon Architecture, and AOK Engineering. Staff further reviewed those 4 responses and scored those submittals based on the selection criteria and did shortlist 2 firms that we are requesting a contract for one of those this evening. So that, like I said, that proposal was sent to those 2 firms that we've scored. We wish to, the Planning Development Department does wish to enter into contract with Insight Design Architects. We are currently still working on the finalization of the draft contract with the second selection. Insight Design is a current contract that we have now, or a reviewer. So they were pretty familiar with the city standard contract, so it's pretty quick to move that one through. So tonight we are asking that we do approve the contract, or not expediting, but do ask that the board consider this contract for Insight Design. Be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Gardner.
I'm just curious, did Torgerson not reply to the request?
No, prior to the contracts expiring, we had, so the other 2 we currently have contract now, Insight Design and Torgerson and Gaskin Hill Norcross, they've been in the contract since 2018 with 1-year renewals. Gaskin Hill Norcross reached out to us prior to the contract expiring, noting that they did not wish to renew that contract, so we knew that one was coming. And then, yes, we did not get a response from Torgerson Design Partners as a second review.
Any other questions for Mr. Smith?
And yes, if you guys want to see the full submittals from each of those 4, we can also email you PDFs of those as well.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this topic this evening? Hearing none, public portion of this bill will be closed. One last chance for the members of the Board of Aldermen for comment. Hearing none, this bill will be held over to the next legislative session.
Your Honor, I move that we place bill number 3388 on its first reading by title only.
Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Gardner to place bill number 3388 on its first reading by title only. All those in favor?
An ordinance amending architecture third-party review fees in the current fee study.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, to go in coordination with the contracts that we are requesting the approval on. We did get those proposals and we are requesting to update the fee that we do charge. That is a pass-through fee to the applicants to be in line with the proposed fees that we received from the respondents. So I'll be happy to answer any questions there.
Any questions from the board? Thanks, sir. Is there anyone in the audience here to speak on this topic this evening? Hearing none, the public portion will be closed. One last chance for the members of the board to speak on this topic. Hearing none, this bill will be held over until the next legislative session. Mr. Galloway.
Your Honor, I move that we place bill number 3389 on its first reading by title only.
Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Campbell to place bill number 3389 on its first reading by title only. All those in favor?
An ordinance awarding a contract for construction of certain improvements related to the governor's cost share.
Mr. Childers.
Okay. I provided some information earlier today about this plan. We request expedite this bill 941. As you know, the city of Ozark applied for and received something called the governor's cost share. That was, I believe, a couple of years ago when we actually applied and received that. And the purpose for that was to seek funding to accomplish one of the projects that was in the Finley Farms Transportation Development District project list. And what that was, and I've got the map right here. So I wanted to throw this back up there because I don't know if everybody remembers what this really entailed, but it was several things. This is to repair the McCracken Street Bridge. This is to improve stormwater with adding additional boxes, and it is to improve the circulation of the interchange that's down there by the park and make safety improvements. And so all those things were in the Finley Farms project. The reason why we're bringing this to you tonight is because it was the city of Ozark that applied and received the governor's cost share. So because those funds from that grant are going to be utilized for a project to be actually done and completed by the Transportation Development District, our agreement is with MoDOT. So MoDOT is saying, listen, you went through all the steps. We're working with the Transportation Development District on this project, which they are, and they're reviewing everything. Obviously, there's bridges and everything else involved. So MoDOT has to sign off on all of that. But because of that, we need to see that the city has a concurrence of award to move forward. I did point out a note, and I think this is important. This is a really, we've been working on this project a long time. And just like every other bid, we put the bids out, or the Transportation Development District put the bids out. The bids came back probably $700,000, $800,000 over. Then they restructured the big pack. We denied all of those bids, restructured the big package. They put those out as one single project rather than in pieces. By doing that, they reduced the overage, but it still came back $580,000 over budget. So what we had to do was we had to go back as the TDD board. And remember, the city of Ozark is on that board. I do represent the city on that board. And we went back and said, we could reduce the scope, we could get rid of something, or we could find other ways to save money in this project. And everybody we didn't want to get rid of anything. This is a great project and we need to do all the things that the project proposes to do. So we went back in and while we were putting the scope together and looking down the road to our future transportation needs, we realized that intersection at the top of the hill right there on Jackson Street, if we are going to make the modifications down by the park, we need to establish both improvements at both ends for a future additional lane on Jackson Street Bridge. We have already accomplished the one down by the workshop within the Jackson Street project that we just completed. We would like to complete the other one as you come up the hill so that way we have both of those things completed. What that did was we added that to the scope and thinking it would come back on budget. It didn't come back on budget. So now we're simply removing that back. So the city will take those projects back and do those ourselves. But tonight, again, MoDOT has just seen that the city Board of Aldermen concurs with the bid process and with the bid, and that way we can move forward and utilize the funds from the governor's cost share for this project. Long explanation, but you needed to know it all.
Mr. Campbell?
I did come up with a few questions, just general, mostly just general information stuff. I remember back when we were talking about this, there was a couple of discussions, one being on raising that vertical curve, the low point of the vertical curve.
Yeah.
From what I can tell, we are going to do that.
That more, you're talking about more down on the A&M side where the park is and so forth.
Yes, well, where the road floods, we're going to raise that up so that.
Yes, that is going to be raised up.
Okay. And then the other part was, I guess it was the A&M Society, or maybe Ozark Special. There was some discussion on whether we were going to close off or have a ride out only. Is this part of the same conversation there?
It is, but there's not going to be a ride out only. We actually went back and were able to make the modifications, or I should say the engineer was able to make the modifications at the desire of the A&M Society to leave that as a full ride-in, or excuse me, a full access, not a ride-in, ride-out. So you also will be raised full access. And it's still going to be a full access.
Right. Okay. That made them happy, I guess.
Yes.
I've got a couple more if you don't care.
Right there.
So the two tunnels, one of them is a pedestrian tunnel and one of them is just like an overflow?
Well, both of them are going to be sized to appropriately allow for pedestrian traffic to go under there. So you're going to have one right here.
And come out by the lift station?
Yeah, I'm going to start right here at the park. So here's the entrance to the park. There's already one that exists right here, but it doesn't meet what we call AASHTO guidelines, which is the guidelines that transportation, the federal highway uses to make sure that if you're riding a bike, that you can adequately get under there and the height of that. So that's going to go underneath here where the one is now. And then the trail goes along and it goes what would be south of the drainage area that's there right now where you see a box culvert. So that's going to be a little bit further to the south, and that too is going to be sized, and that will allow us to have the beginning of the full trail access that we want heading towards Garrison Springs. So it's just a really, we know we didn't want to take any of that out, because if we don't do it now, I don't know when you're going to go back and raise the road and put another box. So it was just one of those situations.
Okay. And then the alternate two, which I think had something to do with the two indents on the bridge. Does that make sense? We did not choose to move forward with alternate two. Is that correct?
Okay, ask that again. I'm sorry.
The numbers add up. The two base bids.
Yes, sir.
Which is roadway and bridge.
Yeah.
And then the alternate one bid, we did include that. But we did not accept alternate two, I don't believe, or TDD. did not, the TDD did
We
not.
had a
check.
conversation with the engineer about that, but I'm going to allow our council to answer that question.
Okay.
The engineer for the project, which the city is utilizing the TDD engineer for this, which is Great River Engineering. They recommended moving forward with the base bid and the alternate one, and not to move forward at this time with the alternate two.
So that's the way it will be?
And the city is concurring with that
Yeah,
and their
okay.
recommendation.
Okay, okay. Well, the engineers should know, I mean, they're the ones that inspect the bins and stuff. So one more thing, and this is really more than a question, well, it's a question and a statement. On the notice to proceed, will it be issued soon? Like within?
Yes, there is a schedule, and I think it's rather soon. There may be some requirements. I can tell you this, the reason why I'm asking to expedite this tonight is that the contractor's bid was only good until August 26th, and we don't have another meeting.
Okay.
And so in the TDD's effort in working with MoDOT is saying, you can approve it, but we want to see the city improve the governor's cost share portion of this too. We don't have another meeting before then. So that was really the reason for the expediting.
Okay.
The bids you get just don't hold them as long as they used to.
So is that that would be the award of concurrence? Is that?
Yes, we're just doing the award of concurrence. So the TDD does their approval. We do our approval. MoDOT is satisfied on the governor's cost share end. And then again, the TDD is in charge of completing the project. So they will have their pre-development, I guess, or pre-construction, what they call it. And at that time, that amount between that we're saving, it's my understanding that at the pre-conference, that is when they sign off on the change order, not to increase, which most change orders do, but to decrease the price of the project. From the base and the alternate one to.
And Hartman will sign off on that?
They've already discussed it. That's
That's good. I looked at those numbers. There were some pretty high numbers in
I know. Yeah. So no, they had that conversation with Mr. Hartman, and it's been worked out.
Okay. So once we get the notice to proceed, there's some pretty tough LDs on this job. We're going to be right in the middle of winter. It's going to be some tough stuff in the middle of winter.
Yeah, probably.
So we got 4 months to do it. They've got 4 months to do it, or they could face some pretty strict liquidated damages.
You could.
But I guess we'll just have to see how that goes.
I guess. I think we're so far behind now as it is. We're pushing a tight timeline with this governor's cost share. They're wanting to see us spend that money. And so we're
get on with it.
We're just going to get on with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Any other board comments? Anyone in the audience here to speak on this bill this evening? Hearing none, we'll close the public portion of the reading of this bill. One last chance for board comment. All right, Mr. Galloway.
Your Honor, I move that we place bill number 3389 on a second reading by title only.
Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Campbell to place bill number 3389 on its second reading by title only. All those in favor?
An ordinance awarding a contract for construction services of certain improvements related to the governor's cost share.
All right, any additional comments, questions, concerns with regards to the bill?
So the way I understand it,
Go ahead.
thank you. The way that I understand it, we are voting to spend somebody else's money on a contract being implemented by somebody else for a project that benefits the city of Ozark.
That's it.
Okay, I'm supported.
Very good. Very good. All right. Hearing no additional comments, questions, or concerns. Mr. Galloway.
Your Honor, I move that we enact bill number 3389 as ordinance number 22-047.
Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Campbell to adopt bill number 3389 as ordinance number 22-047. May I get a roll call vote, please?
Alderman Alder. Alderman Flores is absent. Alderman Snyder.
Aye.
Alderman Galloway. Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Gardner. We have 5 aye votes. Motion carries.
This is like the Bruce Galloway show this evening. Resolutions, Mr. Galloway.
I should have looked at the agenda a little more carefully when I volunteered to take Alderman Flores' spot. All right, Your Honor, I move that we read Resolution 1971 by title only.
Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Campbell, to place resolution number 1971 on a reading by title only. All those in favor?
A resolution approving the destruction of records that have met the retention schedule in compliance with the guidelines established by the Secretary of State and Chapter 109 of state law. As a brief introduction, I was requested by Alderman Galloway to explain how this bill works in conjunction with an ordinance that we just passed recently related to the Sunshine Law. So as you're probably familiar, we have 2 sets of laws that govern records that are held by municipalities or public bodies. The Sunshine Law allows for the open records to be disseminated upon request to individuals and kind of dictates the fees and how that process will work. And then we have a separate chapter that regulates how long records have to be kept. And so they work in conjunction, but obviously it is not going to be feasible for municipalities and public bodies to keep records forever in some cases. In some cases you will. This state statute allows for the city, once you've met the guidelines established by the Secretary of State, to actually go through this process to authorize the destruction of those records that have met what we call a retention guideline. And so in most cases, it'll be 5 years. In some cases, it'll be longer. And the city clerk usually ensures that those guidelines have been met and then brings an ordinance forward or a resolution forward requesting the destruction of those records. So in this situation, this is how that process is moving forward.
Any questions? Very good explanation. Appreciate it. All right. Hearing no questions from the board.
Your Honor, I move that we enact Resolution 1971.
Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Campbell, to adopt resolution number 1971. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously with 1 member absent. All right, second reading and final passage of bills. Guess who? Mr. Galloway.
Your Honor, I move that we place bill number 3384 on its second reading by title only.
Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Campbell, to place bill number 3384 on a second reading by title only. All those in favor?
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a contract with Audio Acoustics Incorporated for certain audiovisual improvements.
Ms. Payne?
Do you have any questions?
You might have any questions for Ms. Payne with regards to? Most all of the talking is coming from this side of the room tonight.
So we are good to go. We have the most current bid on the most current equipment. Nothing that's going to be obsolete. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any additional comments? I'm just excited that this day's finally here, that we're to this point, because this was one of the very first things I spoke about when I took office over a year ago, was updating this room to be able to stay as transparent with our voting base, our constituency as we possibly can. And one of the things that I want to make sure of as we're sitting here, and I made a note earlier, is that usually sitting in this chair, I know what's going on. Usually sitting in this chair, I can hear everything that's going on. But last week when I was in Washington, DC, and I listened to the meeting, I had a very hard time following what was being said by certain aldermen because their microphones may have not been turned on. And then when we have text on the screen or examples on the screen to show, it takes away the view of who's actually speaking. And when you can't hear, it's hard to try to figure out who said that, or who the guest speaker is. So I'm confident that our new system will take care of all those situations where we can split the screen if we need to, or we can toggle back and forth between actual testimony taking place and actual visual evidence that's being submitted. Is that correct? We'll be able to do all that. I'm good. Let's go. All right. Thank you very much. Any additional questions, comments, concerns from the members of the board? Hearing none. Mr. Galloway?
Your Honor, I move that we enact bill number 3384 as ordinance number 22-048.
Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Campbell to adopt bill number 3384 as ordinance number 22-048. May I get a roll call, please?
Alderman Galloway. Alderman Snyder. Alderman Flores is absent. Alderman Alder. Alderman Gardner. Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes. Motion carries.
Wonderful, wonderful. One question I didn't ask, estimated time, no idea. Maybe before I leave office. All right, perfect. All right, wonderful. Report of officers, boards, and committees. Mr. Childers.
Yeah, I just want to draw your attention. You probably already saw it, but you know, we have a lot of dates, a lot of deadlines, a lot of things that are coming up. So August and September are busy months for sure, and it's probably going to stay busy to the end of the year. Chandra and I are always discussing those things, and she sends out those emails. So just pay attention or just look for those. Because we do got a lot of stuff coming up, and I don't want you to be caught off guard at all. We don't want to do that to you. One of the things that I know we've talked about, but I don't know that we even thought to talk about it today is you may recall that there is a very special event that happens on an annual basis over on the old Riverside Bridge, and that's the Sunset Soiree. I do want you to know that we have procured seats for you there. You just need to let and we'll send out an email. It's probably easier. And I don't know, maybe you already did this, and if you did, I apologize. But just to find out who wants to attend and if they're bringing a guest. So anyway, that's September the 17th. Yeah. So just remember that. It's a neat evening, and it's with our partners, James River Basin Partnership. So anyway, that's all I have.
All right, planning and development. Submitted a written report. Would you like to go over it a little bit? We usually have questions about that.
Yeah, I'll give you a few updates. Whataburger, we did reach out to them about an updated opening date, and they're anticipating mid-November to open that facility. I know there's been questions about Starbucks. I voiced a little bit of the updates on that the last meeting about the property line. As you may recall, the Russell Stover's building, the site was fairly large. Starbucks is only going to utilize half of that. So they have resubmitted a revised site plan to address that property line in agreement with the neighboring applicant. They have submitted a administrative lot split of that property. We have had a pre-application meeting and a site plan submittal for Take 5 oil change. That'll be just to the west of the proposed Starbucks. So those are in review right now. James River Ford, been working with them. They plan to do some remodel updates to that facility. The old, just the Ford dealership here in town. They're going to add an indoor showroom and just some facade improvements. Sonic, getting really close. If you've driven by there, they're installing some landscaping. That's usually one of the last things going in. So hopefully that'll be opening soon. Other than that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, well, you'll get a second to think about it. Mr. Campbell.
What is TAB Investments there on 20th Street?
You know, that is a really good question. It's a shell building, and I can't, for the life of it, it's slipped my mind, but they're building a shell building, and then at some point probably have an infill there. I'm wanting to say it may be like a storage type facility, but I'd have to look into that and get you the details.
Okay, just curiosity. I didn't recognize the name or anything.
Mr. Gardner?
When you do when Starbucks does a site plan, do they take into consideration the fact that there could be an extremely long line? At times it might come out into the street, and do you make adjustments for that
So-
somehow?
Not necessarily specific adjustments for a specific use, but we do know that Starbucks, other drive-through facilities such as a Chick-fil-A and the Indies, they do back up quite a bit. We are seeing a lot of the applicants proposed dual drive-through lanes. All of those are exceeding our requirements by the ordinance of how many queuing stalls is required. So I think they're trying the best they can to judge that, not knowing exactly how many they will need, but they are exceeding our requirements in our ordinance for queuing in drive-throughs.
Just out of curiosity, what happens if we approve it according to our ordinances, and then it turns out to be improperly designed and things do back up? Or maybe not designed improperly, but business is better than they think.
I believe it probably would become more of a nuisance and become more of it on a traffic side because they back up into a public right of way. And then I imagine the PD, police department would have to step in and help address some of those concerns and maybe try to work with them to identify a plan to accommodate that. I will say in this facility, I think it will work out well because they do have a shared drive access easement they're going to propose with Take 5, and they actually share a drive kind of more on the Take 5 side. That's kind of an outer drive going around their parking lot into the facility, and they'll start the drive through on the northern end of the building and work back out to the southern end out the facility. So they are trying to accommodate the best they can. I believe the Culver's drive through is working really well because they've got those dual drive through scenarios.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Smith? Thanks, sir. OC Park and Recreation submitted a written report. Do you have anything to add to it? Any questions for Ms. Payne?
We are busy, like busy, probably busier than we've ever been busy. The staff are working really hard this summer. We're ready to wrap up. It's been a hot summer for kids, for staff. We're ready to start our fall stuff. It seems that we don't take much of a break. We finish the last day of summer camp and then we launch right into after school programs. Sports are going. We've got volleyball already started. Fall soccer's going. I asked my staff for their passion projects. We spend a lot of time doing projects that we just do every year. And I asked them all to bring forward a passion project. And one of them was an archery program. And so we started an archery program and it's pretty cool. So we had 35 participants in our first registration. So that was kind of neat. Homeschool PE has got a lot of kids in it. Our AKC, which is our after school program, is full. On the road again is we get them all together in the summer and have them plan out what they want to do for the fall. And that's our senior trip where we take seniors on trips. So we're busy, guys. We're so busy. It's fun. But if you see any of my summer staff, please tell them thank you. We had a great summer with our counselors and like over 300 unique kids came through our program this summer. So.
Mr. Campbell.
I think Mr.
That's all right. Okay. This is something I know probably gives you nightmares. And with all the subdivisions that are going in, or at least proposed with insufficient swimming pools or none at all, and we keep growing, what do we do about the need for places for people to swim?
Well, our outdoor pool is not full in the summer. We've never had a day where we've had to turn people away. So it's not full, but it rains and then everyone goes to the indoor pool and then it's full. But if you want to give us some money, we'll build a new pool.
No, I'm just wondering if that's a problem, because I think we ought to address it at the planning and zoning level, if it is, with more pools and subdivisions.
Well, our outdoor pool's old, pretty old. We could always do some updates for it and make it larger. The footprint of it would be bigger. There's splash pads. There's other things that you can do. It wasn't something that came high on the request in our master parks plan. So I don't necessarily know if that's where I would say that it needs the most money, but you may be able to address it through planning and zoning. But with park stuff, a swimming pool didn't hit very high on our priority list, if I remember correctly. And I know it's at least below 10 or 15 of the top priorities. So we can look at it again.
Well, that's surprising, as was pickleball.
And actually, we did our our sports complex study, and they looked at pickleball. So when I get that all wrapped up into a report form, I'll bring it forward and show how that impacts.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Campbell?
Well, I'm gonna follow up on what Rick said there, to start with. Are pools generally a profit center for the city? Or is there just so much maintenance involved that they don't?
So indoor pools generally are not, but the way that we've structured it is that I think it's definitely an asset. So I think a lot of people join the OC. So there's no way that I could say percentage wise, how many people, like, is it just gonna make money itself? No, but because it's an asset, I think we have a lot more people than we generally would. You look at our membership numbers versus Nixus, and they have an outdoor versus an indoor. I can't 100% say that that's all of it. I think we're better at a lot of stuff. But I would say that definitely.
Was that an unbiased opinion?
I mean, it is.
Well, you know, I feel like that could be more of a reason to do the pool amenities within subdivisions, like Mr. Gardner was saying. So that's just my thought based on what he had said. But and then the other thing, I know 2 weeks ago I asked you, I think it was before the meeting, about the local use tax being back on the city's website.
Jacqueline's working on it. I just sent her some more information. I need some ballot language and a couple
I
things.
hadn't looked in a day or two, so I wasn't 100% sure.
It won't be long.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Snyder?
Mine's actually archery. That piqued my interest up there. You have 35. What's the age group? I'm just curious.
It was a youth program. It just depends. But generally, we take kids that are 10 and above. So,
is it like recurve, longbow, compound? The reason I ask that is, we could bring a lot of business with archery to our area.
Sure. For
competitiveness. I've seen that. I'm an archery hunter myself, and I see that is a very good program if it's taught correctly.
Sure.
And once we get more involvement with it, we really promote that. We could actually bring tournaments to our area.
And we had talked about that. We kind of, Republic had done something similar, and then Hayden just really enjoyed it. So he started bringing that forward. We had done it a few years ago in a row for our homeschool PE. We do kind of like they do at schools, where like one session is like football, one month is this. Well, one of the sessions was archery, and we had a gentleman that came down and taught it, which is kind of what started it. And then we just sort of picked it up and just kind of getting started with it. So
I think that's something we could really get onto if we promote it, because like I said, I hunt. I know a lot of folks hunt here, and that could be just a precursor to getting our kids and our youth back out in the field to hunting and actually get more folks into the OC to learn.
Absolutely.
So I like that idea.
Thank you.
I thought maybe you were volunteering to be William Tell.
We do take volunteers, so.
To be the holder of the apple. All right, yes, sir. One more question.
Have a couple more thoughts now that we're brainstorming. Where does a skate park fall on any list anywhere? Anybody's?
I think it was second to last.
Second to last?
Yes,
What's last? Don't tell me bike park.
Pickleball? No, I'm just kidding.
And then the other one would be biking, downhill mountain biking, or pump track.
Yep.
Is that on anybody's favorite list?
Mine.
Okay.
It's not my favorite, but it's up there.
All right.
We're identifying a good location
for not the skate park, but the pump track.
The biking.
Or the down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on the radar. We've looked at possibly doing like a single track, maybe back behind the OC, but we've got to work on some bank stabilization and a few other things before I invest some money in doing that. And then there's another piece of property that we're looking at. We tried to get a pump park at a donated piece of property, but that kind of went backwards. So it's out there. It's on it's in the brain.
One more.
and I'm done, I swear. Dog park,
Yep,
is it on the list?
I like dogs.
Huh?
I like dogs too.
Okay.
The dog
Now,
park.
I'd rather see the bike track than the dog park.
I think, honestly, I think the dog park fell like 11 because I know it wasn't in the top 10. The thing about the dog park is that, one, we don't really have a place to put it. I don't know where I would put it. And then you have to have, the fob is the biggest problem. Like, how do people get into it? And then you have to regulate, like, do they have their vaccines? Do they have this? Do they have that? Are there big dog parks? You have to have water, you have to have shade, and there's certain things that you have to have. So it's, I would love to just say, here's a fence, go let your dog free, but it's just not quite that simple. So I think it's number 11, honestly.
For the record, when you talk about dog parks, I don't know that we need a dog park in Ozark because our city clerk will tell you that we only have about 75 dogs in our city. Is it 75? Okay, we're under 80 dogs in the entire city of Ozark, so I don't know that we're justified to put a dog park in.
That's up to 100% during this.
There you go. Maybe then we would have a few more dogs.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much. No, the biggest problem I see with dog parks is the inability for people to pick up the mess. As I've traveled this past 2 weeks with my dog, it's almost ready to get her tagged. She's that close to having all her shots to where she can do it. Every time we stopped at a place that had a facility, a little dog park facility, it was littered in litter. Yes, and I didn't feel comfortable letting my puppy traipse through that mess. So I wish people would clean up their mess a little bit better than what they do. All right, miscellaneous comments, announcements from members of the board.
I have a question, because I don't know the answer. That's why I'm asking. Can you tell me why Pizza Hut no longer has an open lobby? I mean, the reason I'm asking that, like our Pizza Hut, we do not have an open lobby to go in and dine. Okay.
They do not have a dining room.
They know there's no dining on the inside. You can pick up. They say our lobby's open for pickup. Yeah. But I was coming back through Cashville yesterday morning, as a matter of fact, and going down Friday night. They have a phenomenal Pizza Hut building, and it's beautiful. And it was packed for the small town of Cashville. I'm just curious. I see signs for Pizza Hut here, but I'm just curious as to why they closed their dining facility on the inside.
It's a really good question. I thought that myself. I've seen that Pizza Hut is making an effort to build new buildings. As a matter of fact, there's a new Pizza Hut location going in on an end cap in a strip center in Nixa across from City Hall. So it's not going to have, it's going to be more like a Domino's, like it's not even going to have a lobby. It's going to be really kind of an all takeout thing. It's my understanding that whoever owned the Pizza Huts in this area, the franchise owners, is the same one that owns some up north and so forth. And there's something going on with that whole dissolution of the Pizza Huts and the franchise owner. But that being said, I don't know all the facts to that. I'm interested too. We'll look into it because that is something that I would love to see a new Pizza Hut there. It's a great location. And a new Pizza Hut, I think, would thrive because, quite frankly, it did well before.
Well, it is. It done extremely well. Yeah, and I know that, I dined there. I know had several friends that dined. I'm just curious. Yeah. You've got a brand new Sonic next door, but yet we have Pizza Hut, huge building, but you can only go inside and pick a pizza up at a window.
The only guess I can tell you is that due to the staffing shortages that are out there, they're probably struggling the same way. And what they've probably found is that, kind of go back to my point of them putting in a takeout only Pizza Hut, which I haven't seen much over in Nixa. They're probably finding that we just we just do just fine with the takeouts and, you know, so it would be just great to be able to see them tear that one down and put in a brand new one that had a drive-through, because I think a lot of people would use it. Yeah.
Godfather's does good business and they dine inside.
Do they still have their buffet and
They
all
still,
that?
yeah.
I didn't know for sure if they did.
Is there any way you could look into that and see, you know, what
Happy
the
to.
possibility is, maybe revitalizing that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, want to make sure that there isn't anything that we as a community can do, or a city can do. Maybe there's something there that we just don't know about, and that we can make sure we communicate with them and let them know that, hey, if you do want to move forward, we're a business-friendly town, and we'd like to see more business, and we'd like to see you thrive here. So please stay. Let's make it better. So we'll do that.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I have heard, and I don't know if this is the correct answer, but what I've heard is that they, during COVID shutdown, they didn't need as much staff. They realized that they percentage-wise can make the same amount of money on the bottom line doing what they're currently doing versus hiring staff to run the dining room and keep up with that piece. Yeah. A lot of businesses post-COVID have adjusted their business models, and they're just kind of, you know, riding that plateau of, you know, I can do this, I'm making the same amount of money, you know, so. I don't know. I don't think they'll ever open. I believe that Sonic acquired some property behind Pizza Hut, and had they known where Pizza Hut was at, they might have been able to move to the west versus moving to the backside. So I don't know that Pizza Hut's going to be interested in changing their business model back to what it used to be, from what I've gathered. Yeah, sure, absolutely.
I'd say you'd more likely see that they probably put in a new facility with very limited seating, no buffet, and more of a drive-through delivery type of a focus. I think that's their new model that I've seen in their new buildings anyway.
Yeah.
What I've seen. But we'll find out.
Sure. Oh, okay. Any additionals? All right, hearing nothing, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Alder to adjourn this legislative session. All those in favor? Perfect. Hope everyone has a great evening.
Since Alderman Alder